Hi guys, thanks for joining us for the very first Qalandars of Cricket podcast. You heard that right. It's the Qalandars of Cricket podcast with myself, Aatif Nawaz, and of course the wonderful, the talented, by his own admissions, the cricket geek, Mr. Peter Miller. How's it going, Pete?
I'm living the dream, Atif. I've just sat and watched, I think, probably the greatest opening ceremony in the history of cricket. And then there was a cricket match after it, but I wasn't really interested
I
after
don't
the
think we
opening
were.
ceremony.
And I think we might be the only people who were genuinely interested in today's Pakistan Super League cricket match. But hey, man, listen, this is going to be fun. We're going to talk about the game. It was, of course, Quetta Gladiators against Islamabad United. But that opening ceremony, now I know you really enjoy opening ceremonies, and I feel like you might be the only person in the world who does. What did you make of it? Because I'm quite curious. I'm Pakistani, so obviously I got all the little intricacies they were going for the most bit, and obviously language was never a barrier for me. How did you kind of respond to it from your perspective?
I like cricket opening ceremonies, but I like cricket opening ceremonies because they're terrible, and I like terrible things. So, from my point of view, if you're going to have intricate interaction between hosts, yeah, and a bit of banter, the best way you can do that is to have the banter written out on cards and read out. That's definitely the way to go. So if you're going to have like a little...
I'm with you because I was looking at it. They've clearly spent a lot of money on this. They had like 6 different limousines for each of the captain and team owners. They spent an absolute fortune on fireworks. You know, there was so much pomp and circumstance. They flew bloody Sean Paul over to Dubai to perform at this event, yet they couldn't afford an auto cue instead of just having them reading off these little cue cards.
Well, I mean, it was just the way that she was there. There was it Stephanie, the lady who was Miss Sri Lanka or something?
At some point, yeah.
And she was there reading from a card. I really love Pakistan. And for me as well, if you're going to declare your love for another country, the way that it feels really wonderful and exciting and interesting is if you read it off a card that someone else has clearly written for you. That's the most heartfelt love you can have for someone else's country.
Cue card love. You can't beat cue card love. Hashtag cue card love. No, I love that. It was bizarre though. The whole thing was bizarre. I mean, the choice of, the guy who started it off, I don't envy him, you know. I mean, I played some tough crowds in my time. But, I mean, first, you're playing to a cricket stadium. You're trying to involve everybody. I get that he's going for the crowd work. Then he's got this kind of little scripted romance with this Sri Lankan model that, you know, with fairness to her, and I apologize if it offends anybody who's related to her, but I have no idea who she is and what her connection with Pakistani cricket is.
I mean, I didn't know who anyone was. So, I mean, I suppose to a certain extent, I had more of an advantage, really. I mean, I knew who Sean Paul was. I'll say that. And hopefully we'll come on and spend some time talking about Chana Pal. Because obviously that was the highlight. But I think, I mean, I didn't know who, Namjam Sethi, I think, was probably the one person in the whole opening ceremony that had who anyone was. The great thing was there was the brilliant countdown, wasn't there, at the beginning? So they had the guy with the dodgy ponytail and the glasses, and he's doing the countdown thing, and then the countdown goes off. And I reckon in the stadium, the countdown probably would have looked all right. The countdown would have been something along the lines of, you know, there was the fireworks going off and all the rest of it. But for the TV audiences, nothing happened. Absolutely nothing happened. That was it. There was just nothing that went on. And it was just amazing. It was like 3, 2, 1. Oh, okay. And then immediately after that, they had some guy doing a speech. I don't know who it was. It might even have been in Urdu, so I didn't understand a word of it. But he wasn't lit. So they didn't even have a light on him, and he's there going, are they going to turn the light on at any point in this? But he just carries on manfully.
In the dark.
There was so many brilliant bits. Then there was the bit where Namjam Sethi, who's chairman of the PCB, the chairman of the Pakistan Super League, very important man, big important guy, and the host is trying to push the microphone further towards his face so everybody can see him, but in a way that to kind of move it towards his face. And I'm there going, just, you know, because he's there going, well, I don't want to stop him mid-flow because, you know, he's doing his speech, and, it was great. And I understood Pakistan's Super League's Zindabad, which was exciting for me because that's about the extent of my Urdu knowledge. But it was, so that was great. I mean, there was so many great moments that just made me giggle. And then there was the badly lit limo procession, which was equally brilliant. So they were filming people coming out of various limousines, and you couldn't see who any of them were because it was so badly lit. And I don't quite know what was going on with the lighting, but it was great. So all of a sudden you're like, oh, there's Javid and Shahid Afridi. Are they related, or have they just got the same surname? I don't know.
Think they are related. One of them runs higher in that part of the world, and one of them is obviously like head and shoulders. I love Shahid Afridi. I can't even make fun of him. I'm sorry, I can't do it. I love him.
He signed the wrong wall at it.
He did. I know he signed the wrong wall. But the wrong wall became the right wall after he signed it. I got to tell you, because that other wall they put up that he was supposed to sign just looked like a pathetic excuse for a wall after the first wall had been signed. I want that, but they should auction that first wall, because I would totally bid for it. I'd put it right here. You see that mirror in the background? That wouldn't be there anymore. You'd have a wall signed by Shahid Afridi. I'd totally buy that. But listen, on that limo thing, that was so bizarre, because literally each limo, I thought they would use one limo and everybody would come out of it like a clown car or something.
That would be a great gag. I said that. I tweeted that at the time. That would have been an amazing gag. Everyone coming out the same limo, like coming in one door and out the other. Amazing.
But instead, they've got like 6 different limos. So obviously now, I mean, if it can't beat the IPL in terms of money, the CPL's been around for a long time, even the BPL, all these things. But Pakistan's cricket league, the Pakistan Super League, now probably has the distinction of having the highest carbon footprint of any league, and that's just on the opening ceremony.
It reminds me of one of the favourite things I ever saw in the entire world, with the whole carbon footprint thing, was in the IPL, right? So the IPL, as it stands, has a massive carbon footprint, because you're flying these cricketers to India, and then around India you have a cricket stadium full of people. All of them are drinking cans of Pepsi that are using local water supplies, poisoning the wells and all the rest of it, And then on top of that, what they did to raise awareness of the environment, they printed a whole load of new kits in green, right? I remember Chris Gale wearing one. So they had kits that they printed to raise environmental awareness, and those kits used up more carbon and made the end of the world more likely, because they printed new kits. It was brilliant. But yeah, the limos were great. The interesting thing, Aatif, and the bank that are sponsoring it,
HBL, Habib Bank Limited.
All the players and everything got limousines. They gave the HBL guy a golf cart. What's that fair?
I think the groundsman had something to do with that. He probably didn't want a limo. It's not Alan Stanford all over again, is it? They didn't want a limo driving onto the Dubai Cricket Stadium. They wanted a little golf cart that made more sense. And I love that they the hosts, because there were 3 of them by the end of it. One of them was Sanam Saeed, who's like a well-known, well-loved Pakistani TV star. So I think they introduced Sean Paul at one point, but his golf cart hadn't got to the stage yet. So they had to then just start vamping with the crowd. Like, so who likes Karachi, and who likes Lahore, and who likes Quetta? And, they had to do all this impromptu. Oh, and by the way, Sean Paul's ready now. So let's bring on Sean Paul. Hey, what did you make of Sean Paul's performance?
Well, before we talk about Sean Paul's performance, they used kind of like an inspirational video of Pakistan.
Yeah,
time, which was great. And I will say that, did you say it was Sanam? Was the lady?
Yeah.
I thought she was okay. She was pretty good. I didn't think she was quite as horrific as the other 2. But
chemistry made on cue cards.
Yeah. Well, she was managed to speak without holding a cue card in front of her face like this, which I thought was a step up from what those guys are doing.
Did you see what they did to her on Pakistani TV? Because obviously, I don't know if you know, she was wearing like a crop top, so she's, her kind of midriff was exposed. And obviously, when we're watching in the UK on Prime TV, we get it normally. But in Pakistan, PTV Sports, who were also broadcasting it, decided to censor her midriff with a bar that said PTV Sports Live.
That's amazing.
They censored Miss Sri Lanka, whoever it was.
Well, yeah. So there was, yeah. So we had Sean Paul, Sean Paul. I mean, if I'm honest, I'm not a big Sean Paul fan.
Oh,
I do quite like. I discovered soca music when I was out in the Caribbean for the last CPL, and I loved it. But Sean Paul and his dance hall antics were great. There was the line that you tweeted, which was, so I think you said, so all the grannies in Falsabad will be able to know who he was, which was amazing.
They labelled him. They spent millions of dollars bringing Sean Paul to Dubai to perform at the PSL opening ceremony, and then they decide to label him to make sure everybody knows who he is.
They labelled him, but they called him a dance hall star.
Yeah, they didn't write dance hall, did they? Dance hall.
what made me think might have happened, and I think someone tweeted this, was they asked somebody from Jamaica what kind of music he was playing, and they went, it's dancehall, and dropped the H, because that's what happens with a Caribbean accent, and they just wrote it out phonetically, so it's dancehall. That's what it is. It's dancehall music. Yeah, that was great. I mean, Sean Paul. I could live without Sean Paul, but what is great is when you've got Dwayne Bravo, Darren Sammy, and Chris Gale dancing behind him. I've been in a nightclub that Darren Sammy was in when he was dancing, and he's got some moves to Sammy. You know, he can dance better than I can, but I'm a tubby middle class white boy from Surrey, so the fact that Darren Sammy's better at dancing than me shouldn't be particularly surprising, should it? Being in he comes from the Caribbean, and everyone there, from my experience, can dance. From what I've seen, they're all pretty good at dancing, and I'm terrible. So there we are.
Well, they managed to get it together. So what I was quite impressed by was the choreography, because the four of them, as you say, and they were dancing in sync. It was like one of those beautiful moments that happens in clips. Not to be confused with NSYNC, obviously. That would have been a weird choice for the Pakistan Super League. Maybe Zimbabwe launched theirs. But yeah,
everyone.
Yeah, NSYNC are huge in Zimbabwe, bro. But here's the thing: like the four of them, the four West Indian players in the background who were dancing, they managed to do it in sync with each other. They kind of just worked out a little routine, and Sean Paul was just going with it. And he even had this look just nodding.
It's a routine, and you're probably going there. You say it.
What?
The impromptu West Indian cricketers dancing behind Sean Paul had a better choreographed routine than the blokes who were from the Quetta Gladiators with their little masks on that looked like they were from a McDonald's Happy Meal.
Where's the budget? Where's the priority of the budget? This is what I mean. We've got like big stars coming from around the world. They got Ali Zafar as well. Do you know who Ali Zafar is, by the way? Did you know before this?
No idea. Was he the guy that did the lip syncing?
He was the guy who did the lip syncing.
Yeah, he was great at lip syncing. He was amazing at it. That microphone didn't kid me at all, though. Because
it kept going up his nose. I don't know if you noticed, but it kept going up his nose.
Yeah, that was great. No, I assumed he was kind of like a film star or something.
Yeah, so he's quite popular. He's obviously a very famous singer in Pakistan. He's done some Pakistani TV stuff, but nowadays he's more famous for doing Bollywood movies. And he wrote the national the anthem for the Pakistan Super League. It's all going crazy. Okay, yeah. So he wrote the kind of anthem for the Pakistan Super League as well, Ab Khel Ke Dikhao, which was pretty cool. I mean, I thought that performance and the track, it's kind of the right vibe, right? The weird little crowd noise.
I would have been more impressed if he'd sung. Don't get me wrong, but I thought the song was good. He just wasn't singing it. But that's fine. You know, I genuinely. This is the thing: is that people always think when I sit there on my phone and I tweet about this stuff. Someone tweeted me asking me if I was jealous because I was having a go at the fact that Miss Sri Lanka couldn't read off the cards properly. And I'm there going, yeah, that's what I'm jealous of. I just like things like this. It just make me laugh. You know, I don't mean it in a nasty way. Hopefully it doesn't come across in a nasty way. I just think it's hilarious. And then they had the Green Man group. I thought it was the Blue Man group.
Yes, no, I think the Green Man group is kind of like it's like an unsaid thing. They're a rip-off of the Blue Man group, but Blue Man group are in Vegas, so hopefully but they'll never find out that there's like a Pakistani group doing a Blue Man group.
There's a Blue Man thing. I went to Disney World in Florida in October, and at Universal Studios there's a Blue Man group show, right? So I don't know whether it's the official one or a franchise one or whatever, but I'm sure it's the Blue Man group. So I googled Green Man group, and the Green Man group are like the 6th return on Google when you Google Green Man group. The third return, like an air conditioning company in Wisconsin. Genuinely now, I'm not even making that. I was like, the Green Man group, what's all this? What it is the Blue Men group and the Yellow Men group got together
and mated.
And they created another load of people that play the drums. They were all right, weren't they? Should we talk about the cricket? I don't know. I mean, the cricket was rubbish.
I mean, it was quite different. I mean, it set the tone really, because when the match started, Islamabad were batting first. They lost the toss, and Sarfraz Ahmed, who's the captain for the Quetta team, he gave his interview in Urdu, and in that he mentioned that he thought dew would be a factor, and they thought, okay, so if it gets a bit slippery later, they'll have some kind of advantage batting batting second. So they put Misbah's team, Islamabad United, in, and the first over of the match was a maiden.
See, that's what you need.
A maiden to kick off a 20 franchise tournament?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, that's exactly what you want to do. The IPL has all the 175 not outs and Brendan McCullum scoring 150 in the first game and all that. You've got to differentiate yourself.
Yeah,
I mean,
I don't think they were going for that, because even the opening ceremony had all those kind of IPL-y undertones. It was kind of big and glitzy and glamoury and trying to get stars and music and performances. And I can only imagine Mohammed Yusuf probably sitting in the stand somewhere just shaking his head at all the Bollywoody stuff. But we did have Brendan McCullum in the first IPL match smashing that ton, and there was like a spectacle to it, but there was no real spectacle. I mean, I know when Quetta came out to bat and you had Luke Wright bashing the ball all over the place, as expect him to do all over the world. I mean, that was fun, but apart from that, it was really it just felt really sedate.
Yeah, I mean, I've got to the point now that I've watched so many 2020 matches, and if we're honest, the vast majority of 2020 matches just aren't that great. They're not wonderful. They're just kind of a bit. Yeah. And this was one of those, it's just kind of very one-sided affair. The thing that truly made me angry about it was that no one seems to realise that you have to bat Andre Russell in the top 4. And I don't understand why that is. That Andre Russell batting at 8, and then he scored 40 odd off, was it 35 off 20 balls, which is just standard. There was a great stat that I saw tweeted, I think I retweeted it, which was something along the lines of, I can't remember who did it now. I'm sorry. Check my timeline. I want to give him credit for it. But yeah, there was a great stat that tweeted. He's got something like every score he's had over 30 has had a strike rate of over 150, apart from one of them. On that occasion, the strike rate was like 148.
That's huge. I mean, he got 30, he got 35 off 20. Crucially, he got those 4 boundaries and the 2 sixes at the end as well. His strike rate was 175 today. He got Islamabad past 120 odd, which is sort of competitive if the other team bat really, really poorly. Sort of mini respectable type deal.
I was worried that what I thought might have happened was that the old man cricket that's going on in the UAE at the same time might have made the pitch more worn out than the old men playing the old man cricket.
The Masters.
Well, I mean, I don't know what that is. I've talked about this a lot. I don't get it. I watched.
You don't know about the Capricorn Commanders and the Libra Legends?
I watched the first 2 matches, and then I was just there watching Brian Lara at nearly 50 try and bat and him being rubbish just makes me sad.
Oh yeah.
So I wondered if it was just a poor pitch in that regard. That it had been a bit worn out and stuff. But actually, it was a pretty decent pitch, and they just batted terribly. They were just really awful. But that's fine. I'm sure there's enough brilliant cricketers in the PSL that I'm sure it'll be a fantastic success. You've got lots of great West Indians. KP's there, and KP will play some decent innings. Shahid Afridi will either score lots of runs, take lots of wickets, do a little jig from the middle of the pitch, or eat a cricket ball. So that'll be.
Sell some shampoo, my friend.
And sell some shampoo. There's a tongue twister for you. I met Afridi and interviewed him in St. Lucia. And there is definitely something about the guy. He's very charming. There's this brilliant thing. The whole time I interviewed him, he spoke to me for, 10 minutes, begrudgingly. And he spent the whole time, he obviously caught a cricket ball and hurt his nail. We spent the whole time he was talking to me looking down, looking at his nail with his cap, so I couldn't see his face at all. And the only time he smiled in the whole interview was when I asked him about giving up Test cricket, and he said how playing Test cricket was boring, and he liked to play cricket and then go off and do something else. And then he looked straight at me and he said, because every day's a beautiful day. And that was the only time he looked me in the eye and smiled. But he just said 2020 cricket is for me, because Test cricket, hanging around a cricket ground for 5 days, dull. Is pretty much what he said to me.
Well, it's a shame, really, because I think he would have had a great Test career. Maybe. Well, it would have been entertaining to watch anyway. Couple of performances I really want to single out. Obviously, Mohammed Nawaz. Have you seen this geezer before? He's got a great name, obviously.
Yeah. I thought there was a couple of really decent performances. Was he the spinner at the beginning? I've lost track now.
No, he was the geezer who got all the wickets in the end. He got what, 4 for 13.
Yeah. It was great. He played really, really well. I mean, I think ultimately it's one of those games that I just kind of felt that Islamabad lost the game rather than Quetta winning it. Does that Does that make sense?
It sort of makes sense, but I'm just thinking about like the way they batted, because they could have come out and folded. They could have, they've got some decent bowlers, Islamabad, and then you've got Luke Wright who comes out and smashes 86 off 53 balls, 11 boundaries, 4 sixes, and that as well. I mean, Ahmed Shahzad went very quickly. Kevin Peterson went quite quickly as well. So it really was on that. I mean, that Luke Wright innings, if you take his 86 runs away and give him like a naught, it might be a closer game.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I think they probably would have got all the way home anyway.
Yeah.
I thought it was great watching Zulfikar Baba open the innings with the bowling, and I thought he did pretty well. Yeah, I mean, it was great as well that Mohammed Nabi. I was so excited to see him bowling and getting decent figures as well, because everybody loves an Afghanistani cricketer, right? That just isn't it? Afghanistani cricketers are just the absolute best. The only thing I think that that could have made the whole game infinitely better is that teams need to start batting Mohammad Irfan further up the order. Not going to score any runs, but Mohammad Irfan batting is the best thing in cricket. It just makes me weak laughing. It's just the funniest thing.
It's just a giant poking. It's like a giant with a toothpick.
There was a great picture. I can't remember who it was. It might have been. I can't remember. There was lots of pictures being tweeted. Like, I never remember. I see a tweet and I can never remember who did it. There was a picture and he was obviously so tall and they needed and his legs were coming up into the picture, so he was sat on one chair. So they had him sat on 2 chairs. And his legs weren't coming up into the picture and covering up the shirt. It's amazing. It's great. I mean, somebody being really tall, it's great. I'm all for that.
More tall cricketers for sure. In the end, I mean, yeah, like you said, it's one-sided. The game finished with like 5 overs to spare, 4 overs to spare. 8 wickets in hand still from Quetta. I mean, we always knew Quetta were going to be a strong team, even at the draft, like they were going to be the big team. But who are you looking out for at this early stage in the tournament? 1 match in and an opening ceremony. Who do you see going all the way? Early prediction.
I think the is it the Peshwari Zalmi? I think they can do. Am I saying that right?
Peshwari Zalmi. Yeah, totally, man. You did make it sound a bit like a Peshwari Naan, which I kind of feel having now. But yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry. As Vidushan Hantaraja always tells me, my inability to say Asian names makes me a racist. So
Hantarajan's name pretty impressively there. So good.
Well, that's only because I've cocked it up so often that I've now got it drilled into my head to be able to say it properly. I think they've got an interesting squad. I'd be really interested to see if Jim Allenby gets a game, because obviously I'm a big fan of his stroke. He's almost the cricketer who's a mate. I would begrudging saying that. We have little DM conversations, but I don't know whether he'd consider me to be a friend. I think he probably thinks I'm a weirdo stalker. Because I go on about him all the time. But he's a good guy. But yeah, no, I mean, I think for the league itself, I'd quite like to see a Freedies team do well, because a Freedies team doing well will then elevate it in the consciousness of the Pakistani cricket watching public. Yeah. My concern with it, and this is a big concern with it, and the real shame of it, to kind of be serious for a minute, and I don't like being serious, but to be serious for a minute, the real shame of it is that it's not happening in Pakistan. Because if it was, it would be off the hook. That opening ceremony would have been very different if it wasn't, a 30-40% full stadium at the time full of expats, rather than it being, the Colonel Gaddafi Stadium filled to the rafters. But I think it's really important for the league to have that kind of visibility in Pakistan, even though it's not in Pakistan. And I think a Freedies team doing well would help that to happen. It'll be interesting to see as the tournament goes on, with there only being 5 teams and 4 making the quarterfinals, what happens with the way people play their games at the last stage of the competition, if run rate starts coming into it. But yeah, no, I mean, I'm genuinely we've got a good enough standard of cricketers across the whole tournament for it to be a genuinely interesting event.
I think so. And I'm with you on the Afridi point, by the way. I'm totally with you on Afridi. It makes sense. Like he's kind of like this commercial center of the game in Pakistan. Especially, you can't go anywhere for seeing like 50 adverts of Shahid Afridi pretty much everywhere you go. That's like in Punjab. So I can only imagine how crazy it is the further up north you go into Peshawar, into Quetta. But yeah, I mean, I think there is a lot of scope for this tournament to go quite far. I mean, it's an awkward first game for them. It's a bit of a banana peel game. But they've got it out of the way. There were no issues. It was a decent crowd. A lot of people flew to Dubai. I mean, you can get a direct flight from Dubai from Pakistan. It takes like 3 hours. So I mean, obviously it's the geezers with the cashish who are making their way there, but they did get there, and a lot of people made the effort. So I'm just worried. I'm just kind of hoping that they can sustain that level of interest throughout the tournament. And as the big stars start coming out, as you get Karachi and you've got Mohammad Amir in that squad, you've got Lahore with Chris Gale, obviously he's the center of that squad. There's some big players that are still yet to get involved, and even though only one team is going to drop out, and 4 of the 5 teams are definitely going to make the next stage of the tournament, I think it'll still be quite watchable. In Pakistan, it's on like 3 different channels at the same time.
There's a touch of Field of Dreams, Kevin Costner about franchise 3.0 cricket. They're never going to be a success in their first year. The IPL wasn't, obviously it had lots of coverage, but it wasn't making loads of money and all that kind of stuff in the first year. It needs to build. You look at the Big Bash, we've just had the 5th Big Bash.
Yeah.
And it's just at the point now that they've had 1 million people go and do it. We're going into the point now we're going to have the 4th Caribbean Premier League in July, and it's just got to the point now where kids are walking around the Caribbean wearing some neutral suits.
Yeah.
Sure. And all the rest of it.
Well, I've got my Lahore Qalandars jersey on order, man. It's coming. In one of these podcasts, wear it.
There is, as Jeff Lemon of the ABC wrote a brilliant piece about it the other day about how there's a plasticity to it. It's all a bit plastic at first, but it doesn't take long for that to happen. One of the things I was talking about the other day was that you only need to look at the fact that people are saying they won't watch the IPL because Chennai Super Kings won't be in it, to realise that it doesn't take long for fans to get really strongly attached to things. And if the PCB, and it's the PCB, so it's an if that's kind of 3.5 foot tall. If the PCB can make this work, and they can start making some money out of it, and it gets TV coverage in India, because I don't think, as things stand at the moment, they still haven't penned a TV deal in India, and that's how you make your money in cricket. I was speaking with Damien O'Donoghue, who's the CEO of the Caribbean Premier League, earlier today, and he was making that point to me about how we need to try and find a way to sell the product in India, while bearing in mind that it needs to be a local product.
Mm-hmm.
So that will be the interesting thing, I think. If they can make it work, it can grow. You can have expansion. You can go from 5 teams to 8 teams, etc., etc. There's enough young and exciting cricketers in Pakistan that you can fill up 7 of the spots in 8 teams.
Easily, comfortably. And you know what? There's lots of upside to this league as well, because it's not as lucrative as the IPL, but that's also a good thing because they've got lower overheads overall. They don't need to make as much money from it as quickly, so there's less pressure on it in that regard. And they have done reasonably well in terms of syndicating it. So we managed to watch the game in the UK today. It's on Prime TV in the UK, which is it's a free channel as long as you got Sky. So they've got the maximum kind of reach, and it's a Pakistani audience that watch it predominantly.
Yeah, well, and that's great. Hopefully, as it happened with ITV took on the IPL on spec and showed it pretty much free to air if you've got digital TV or whatever.
Yeah.
Hopefully, it'll be the same for Prime, that they're showing it, and then advertisers will come. If they can show that people are watching it, then people will come, and then the advertisers will pay. You just got to prove you've got the word that I've always heard Lalit Modi use when he's talking about this is eyeballs. You need eyeballs on your product.
These bad boys right here.
Yeah. Which it primes me a little bit hearing the maniacal genius that is Lalit Modi talking about disembodied eyeballs. That primes me a little bit. But he has a point as ever, because he is a genius. So, I think I've got high hopes. It's a proven model that will succeed. And as I said, there's good enough quality players kicking around in there that you're going to see some really, really decent cricket. And if that's the case, people will watch it because people like watching good cricket. So yeah, hopefully it'll do well. I'm looking forward.
Yeah, you and me both, buddy. You and me both. I'm really looking forward to seeing more good cricket from Pakistan. Some of the Pakistanis building a little bit of confidence going into the World T20 as well. And it's nice to just see, foreign players come and play with the Pakistanis, mix a little bit more, give the Pakistanis a chance to learn from them as well, that aspect of the game, and just build this brand. Like you say, there's not as much pressure on it in the first year. And there are going to be haters, there are going to be doubters. And, I'm sorry if anybody was wound up by all the... I wasn't being mean-spirited about the opening ceremony.
No. If we get to the point that we can't laugh at ourselves, should we even this out a little bit by me telling you how awful the opening ceremony was for the Ashes? opening ceremony. We had the start delayed by a giant Welsh flag that they couldn't unfurl properly. It was the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. It was hilarious, and I love it. It's great. You know, cricket should stay homespun. We don't want, opening ceremony should be like, yeah.
Always should be terrible, and they always will be. But you will always watch them, and you will always enjoy them, Peter Miller. Listen, man, thank you so much for dropping by and doing this. Hopefully, we'll chat again during this tournament because there's a lot of matches still to come, and hopefully, we can see more exciting matches in the future to compensate for the lack of more amazing opening ceremonies. God, I wonder what the closing ceremony is going to be like. But hey, man, you're backing. Who are you backing in? Which team are you backing all the way?
I mean, it'll probably just change. It'll just change. Today, I think, and I'll be a different fan the next game. I don't really care. I can't get excited about franchise T20 teams. I just like watching good cricket, so hopefully there will be. What I will point out before I go, though, Mr. Nawaz, is that I've been trying for 2 years to get you on my podcast and haven't succeeded. Because you keep ditching on me or telling me you're too busy. First time you ask me, straight on your podcast. Just to point it out. No problems, no dramas, straight on there.
Listen, Peter, say when. As long as I don't have a gig or don't have to be driving to a gig or don't have to be making money for myself doing stand-up comedy, I'm very happy to be on your podcast. I chat to you for fun, man. This being broadcast is all by the by. I chat to you for fun. It's just a laugh for me.
Cheers, mate.
Like that. A bit of flattery goes a long way, Peter.
Yeah, it goes a long way.
Listen, Peter, thank you so much for joining me, buddy. We'll talk again definitely during this series on Qalandars of cricket as we progress, but hopefully more exciting cricket to come. There's the big Lahore versus Karachi derby. That's going to be a hell of a match. And there's so many cool players to see, so many cool matches to see. We'll be back on here. Send us some tweets. Let us know what you thought about this. And it's very much an experiment, so let's see where we go with this. But yeah, follow on Twitter if you don't already. At QOC Podcast. So there we go, at QOC Podcast. Any questions or any comments, send them through to qalandarsofcricket@gmail.com. There we go, I remembered all of it. Such a pro. Peter, any parting words?
No. PSL Zindabad.
PSL Zindabad. Like, I love it. Like Najm Sethi said today in what felt like the longest speech ever made. It doesn't matter who wins the games. Doesn't matter who wins the games because every game Pakistan is winning. I love it. So cheesy. Cheers, guys. Thanks for checking us out.